Welcome to Meow Wolf Fan 1, Meow Wolf's first #1 fan. Today we're talking about Meow Wolf origin story, the Meow Wolf documentary. So you can see the documentary online right now. If you go to meowwolf.com, you can get to the documentary, which is Meow Wolf origin story. You have the option to buy it or just rent it. If you buy it, you also get commentary with the directors and a lot of bonus videos. It's not very much more expensive, and we want to support Meow Wolf. Like I've said before in previous videos, compared to other attractions like Disney World, Meow Wolf costs almost nothing to visit. So I always recommend giving Meow Wolf all the money. If you want to hear more about the bonus features and the commentary and whether or not you think you might be interested in that, I'm going to cover that later on in the video. Right now, I'm going to just talk about the documentary itself. So I'm sure you've all seen in the trailers, it shows the original bowling alley. Just sort of mind-blowing that they're walking through and they're telling you, oh, we're going to put the house here, you're going to walk through a fridge here, you're going to get to the travel agency here. It's amazing to me that that was all laid out already. One of the things that you're going to see a lot brought up in the documentary is the idea of chaos versus structure, which if you've been to Meow Wolf, you know is a big theme of the attraction itself. There's a video within the attraction that talks about creative chaos and the charter. That seems to have come directly from the experience of Meow Wolf itself. Meow Wolf had actually been around for quite a bit before House of Eternal Return. Meow Wolf started out just sort of as a group of artists. It's really interesting to see some of their early projects and see the seeds of House of Eternal Return. In a lot of the footage they show of some of their previous projects, you can see little bits of House of Eternal Return. This sort of brings me to talking about the quote-unquote characters that you're gonna meet through this documentary. The real people who made Meow Wolf. Benji, I would call him the Meow Wolf aesthetic, him and Emily. It's like seeing Meow Wolf as a human being. Katie Kennedy, I related most to her.
The gallery arts world is a bunch of marketing bull.
Vince, who said we can turn this into a business without selling out and really injecting structure into this creative chaos. And honestly, it was met with a lot of resistance. Another interesting thing about the documentary, if you're a fan of Eternal Return, it's sort of startling to suddenly see, like, oh my God, that's Piper. That's Piper. That's the mom from House of Eternal Return. And she's just talking because she's an artist who worked on House of Eternal Return. One of the things they talk about in the documentary is how they came to be known as Meow Wolf, and on their website it has this story of the names in the hat being randomly drawn. Almost everybody thought it was a stupid name. That's one of the things I love about this documentary, is that it's not overly romanticized. It has a lot of realness in it. They started out, they just had sort of a storefront that they had leased, and they just sort of painted it, built sculptures, and just sort of went wild in there. And seeing all these early installations and knowing that they're gone now, it's really sad. Of course, one of the big things that they talk about is the Do Return. It's sort of Meow Wolf version 0. It's got a very similar theme to the House of Eternal Return. It sort of takes place in the same universe. If you've ever seen pictures or heard about it and been like, oh, I wish I could have gone there, but it's not there anymore, this documentary is the best way to see footage of that and to sort of get a feel for what it might have been like. I just wish there was more. I wish someone had just walked through and narrated the entire thing. Maybe someday I'll try and get all the footage that exists of it and try and put together some kind of walkthrough. Another interesting thing that Meow Wolf did was a play at some point. The videos that they show are crazy. And again, it's really interesting to see some of the things that have become, I guess, what you would call Meow Wolf canon. There are monsters or aliens or something that you see in Meow Wolf. The universe that the House of Eternal Return exists in started so long ago and in so many weird forms. But this group of artists really never threw away an idea. Another thing I've talked about, what from the House of Eternal Return is accessible outside of the House of Eternal Return. You can check that out here. I asked in that video if anyone knew where you could see the Creative Chaos versus the Charter video. So far, the answer I've come up with is nowhere, but you can see some of it in the Meow Wolf documentary. If you're just looking for good narrative tidbits, that's in there. Y'all let me know if you want me to go through the documentary and just find everything that that winds up in House of Eternal Return, because there's a lot. One of my favorite things they talk about is this alien slug thing that they had in jelly. But what's really interesting is they talk about that was sort of the first time that they had an exhibit that had to be touch proof. They had this jelly slug getting gross and like growing things because people would come in and touch it all day every day, and that's the beginnings of the touchable art that is Meow Wolf, the opposite of every museum you've ever been to. Another really great thing you can see in this documentary is a lot of films, I guess. There's a lot of really interesting things that these artists have made that are videos. If you do go ahead and purchase the film instead of renting it, you can watch a few of those in full. I highly recommend checking them out. Also, this is random, but in a lot of their early work, they have bowling pins. They never actually mention this. They just show foreshadowing. Something that is really great about this documentary is that it doesn't feel like a cash in on the fact that Meow Wolf is so popular right now. And part of the reason for that, if you watch the director's commentary, they've actually been making this documentary for quite a while. Before Meow Wolf even had the bowling alley, they were documenting. That's part of the reason it feels so organic. They really knew these people. They really followed them through this journey. Meow Wolf is a collective, and so it's a huge group of people. And in the documentary, you see people coming and going, people getting fed up and leaving, and eventually coming back. You see a lot of the conflict that comes with something like this, and it doesn't try and mask it or Disneyfy it. You know, it's like, yes, this was hard. Yes, bad things happened. There are certain main characters. There are people that were in charge. Katie, the girl who was so shy, she really was one of the people who took charge of the Do Return. Everyone gets to take the wheel at some point. Everyone has unique talents, and they're used to their full potential. These people are also different. Some are extremely outgoing, some are extremely introverted, and they all are leaders. These artists had to learn to be all kinds of things, and it's not just the business side. They had to learn, like, how do you build a house? They had to run electricity. Every documentary has to have, like, you know, the sad story, right? Obviously, this is all true. It's not the focus of the documentary by any means, but I think anytime that you have a group of people that big, statistically, something bad might happen to one of those people. You know, when you go to Meow Wolf, you'll walk in and there's the art room. That's where they have classes, and there's a name over the wall, and they tell his story. I won't get into it here, but it is very sad, and he contributed a lot to Meow Wolf. It does a beautiful job of paying tribute to him. If Meow Wolf is important to you, then this is an important story. After the Do Return, a lot of artists actually left Meow Wolf. That was when they really had to start seriously talking about Meow Wolf as a business model. You know how artists are, you don't want to sell out, and a lot of people felt like that's what the next step for Meow Wolf was. I think, if I'm not crazy, everybody that leaves comes back. Seeing this documentary, in some ways it affirms a lot of stereotypes about artists being difficult to work with, having unrealistic dreams, but at the same time, one of the things that surprised me the most is the amount of community outreach and good that Meow Wolf is doing. You see these guys in the interview and they are like punk rock, bohemian, anarchy dudes. It's all sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They probably just do drugs all day and make art, but they did this crazy grocery store thing where it was like just all fake products. That was actually done with school kids. I mean, that's awesome. They sort of immediately then go into the story of the House of Eternal Return, which does involve getting George R.R. Martin to buy them a bowling alley. They basically made a list of rich people. George R.R. Martin, the interviews in this with him are fantastic. If you purchase it instead of renting it, you get some little extra interview material from George R.R. Martin. He's just really funny, really gracious, and, you know, obviously loves everything they're doing. I don't know a ton about George R.R. Martin, but I thoroughly enjoyed hearing him talk about storytelling, art, and what Meow Wolf is. From the beginning, they were just so sure of their voice, so sure of their vision. It was all there. It was always all there. I mean, it almost seems like it was a world that already existed somewhere, and all they did was recreate it. I mean, it's just so organic and so perfect. There's really cool footage of them cutting a bus in half. I recommend watching this almost just to see that. In addition to the animated video, the documentary also contains a lot of the videos that you can see in the House of Eternal Return that are not online. The videos online, canonically speaking, it makes sense that it's actually on the internet, but some of the more dramatic stuff, those video clips that you see, you know, when you look into a hole or you climb into a corner or something, those videos are shown in the documentary, obviously not in full, but that is basically the only way you can see them outside of the House of Eternal Return, at least at this point. They show a bunch of titles of articles that were written about Meow Wolf, and of course the Ars Technica article that I based my first video on is mentioned. If you get on the internet at all, I'm sure you've seen, you know, Uproxx, Thrillist have all posted about Meow Wolf multiple times, and it's definitely a viral thing at this point. After we see the success story of Meow Wolf, they start talking about the future, and they keep mentioning Austin, and every time I'm like, yeah! And then they just move on. I'm like, the documentary also talks a lot about Denver, which, as I'm sure you know, is going to be the home of the next Meow Wolf. It will be a different story, but in the same universe. If you're excited about Denver like I am, you're definitely going to want to watch this documentary because it's going to show you a little bit behind the scenes of what's going on there, what are they building, how is it going to look, what's going to be there. Way more than you're going to see in any of their commercials or on their website. You got to watch the documentary and you can see what's coming, and it's so exciting. Of course, there's also footage of them in Texas, which makes me like, until they just drop it again. There's a lot of talk now about becoming a billion-dollar company. That's what Vince says his goal is next, and honestly, would not be surprised at all if that happened today. Even the day this video comes out, they may be a billion-dollar company. I don't know. They're gonna hire hundreds of artists in the next year. I want to include this just because, you know, I don't want this to just be like a glowing review of this movie because I love Meow Wolf so much. So, in the sake of fairness, I watched the movie with other people, and one of those people was mostly just disappointed in the end because they still felt like, yeah, Meow Wolf did sell out. They're like, well, we're going to be a billion-dollar company just because. And I didn't get that feeling. I felt like it was pretty clear that they're expanding because they want people to have access to art. They want artists to have access to work. I didn't see it as becoming corporate, but some people might. What do you think Meow Wolf's motivations are? Are they pure, would you say? Now that sort of brings me back to, do you want to buy this? The answer would be yes, but just in case you're like, I am only going to watch it once and I just want to rent it, what do I get if I buy it? What's the difference? One thing is, if you would like to watch this movie with your kids, there is a family-friendly version. Not that anything racy really happens in this, but there is some language. When you buy it, you get the family-friendly version. You also get the commentary. Now, the commentary is interesting because if you're watching this because you're a huge Meow Wolf fan and you want to hear about the story, the narrative, and you want to see the art, the director's commentary isn't really going to give you a ton. And a lot of the commentary is about filmmaking and editing, which as a video editor, I found interesting, but I realized probably not everybody would. The one thing I will say, if you're interested at all in the music in this film, definitely watch the filmmaker's commentary because it's really important to have music that feels as authentically indie as the artists themselves. And so if you're interested on the soundtrack, definitely listen to the filmmaker commentary. They talk a lot about that. If you enjoyed Benji, you will enjoy the special features. So many of like just the weird like sort of art films that they made are available in the special features in full. There's a short film that was made for the play. There's some exhibition walkthroughs. There is also a meeting where they're discussing some of the future of Meow Wolf, and if you are hungry for some Meow Wolf news on what maybe their next move might be, or if they're finally coming to Austin or what, definitely watch that. Matt King apparently auditioned for Survivor, and if you would like to see his Survivor audition tape, guess what? You can. And then the last thing is that there's a Q&A with George R.R. Martin, the directors of the film, and a few of the artists behind Meow Wolf, and it's about 20 minutes long, and there's some stuff in there that's interesting that's not in the documentary, so I do recommend it. Like I said, for $10, just buy it. Just buy it. There's cool stuff to watch that you don't get otherwise. Plus, For $10, I mean, that's basically how much you'd pay to go see it in a movie theater, and give them the money. You see these artists working their butt off and not getting paid for so long. Just give them the money. Pay artists. I am very pro pay artists. Pay the artists. Give them the money. Support Meow Wolf. Do it. They earned it. Give them the money. That's the moral of the story. Give Meow Wolf the money. Always. Personally, I'm very interested in the narrative of Meow Wolf. I didn't think I would be very interested in seeing the behind the scenes stuff, but it informed the narrative so much that I definitely recommend. If you're a fan like me, a fan of the story and the characters in the story and the universe that Meow Wolf has built, you will want to see this. If you're an artist, you will want to see this. Basically, I would recommend this to everyone. Definitely check out Meow Wolf Origin Story. And thank you for watching Meow Wolf Fan 1, Meow Wolf's first #1 fan. We'll be back with more videos soon. Meow Wolf has been putting out a lot more media, so I'm excited. And of course, fan theories for what's going on in the House of Eternal Return. So, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, do the thing. Thank you. And I will talk to you next time on Meow Wolf Fan 1.